Friends, so let's start with our translate text. So for that, first we have to go to our Azure portal and we have to go to translator, right? So translators, right? And then we have to create a translator. So first of all, we would select the subscription. Let's create a new and let's call it translator lab, right? Translator lab. So this is our new resource group. I don't want that. Translator lab. And in the region, let's specify what kind of region we can specify. Let's see here. So in this we can specify any region. So let's choose East US 2. Where is US East US 2? East US 2, right? And the name, uh, let's call it translator lab. And the name translator lab resource. Pricing tier we will use free one, and then we will go to next, 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 and then we will review plus create. I don't know why I said those. Next, review plus create, and then we will go to keys and endpoint page. So let's create, and then we will go to keys and endpoint page. After that we will just set up our, like, clone our repository, go to our translate text, and then install some libraries in our virtual environment, set up the virtual environment, and then we will change the environment variable. So I have done all of these steps, so I will continue from the step 3, that is configuring our environment file. So yeah, the deployment is complete. So let's go to the resource. So this is our resource group and translator lab, right? Let's see, in our translator lab there will be a resource translator. Yeah, this is the translator lab resource. We will go to this resource, we will go to its keys, resource management, and then keys and endpoint. So here you can see there is a keys and endpoint. So first of all we will copy the key. So we copy the key and we paste it here in our code.env. So we just paste it here in the translator key. Then we will paste the region. So our region is East US 2. So here we paste the region, right? Also let's observe this. So this is the endpoint. So here let's understand the endpoint. So for this translator endpoint, it's very different because every resource has a specific endpoint, right? We talked about language resource, so that language resource has a specific endpoint. Then we talked about the AI founder resource, that also has a specific endpoint. Similarly for the vision also, right? For the custom vision, all of those have a specific endpoint. But translator resources real is actually different, right? How is it different? Because there is no endpoint specific to a resource, right? So everyone will be using the same endpoint. By what this I mean, you know, so requests to translators are in most cases handled by data centers that is closest to where the request is originated. So all the requests which are like sent to the translator service, they are handled by the data center which is closest to the request where it is originated, right? If there is a data center failure when using the global endpoint, the request may be routed outside of the geography, right? So that is the thing here. So what it's telling is that this endpoint, right, it is a global endpoint. It is not specific to your resource or something like that. It is a global endpoint, and that is why it can route to anywhere. So like it doesn't matter, like if you are in Canada, right, and you put a request, right, it doesn't matter that where you are. The request might go to in the same region of Canada, or in the geography or North America, or even in the East Pacific Asia. Anywhere it can go. The request can go anywhere, right? It's not restricted. So that is the global endpoint. This endpoint is global. Also, this endpoint is global means you are using this URL. Everyone will be using this same URL, right? There is no resource name here in this URL, right? In this endpoint, there is no resource name. So that is the key difference that we have to understand here, that this endpoint is global. and still we do not, that's why we do not specify. So when we will use the code, in the code we will specify the credential and we will specify the region, but we won't specify the endpoint because endpoint is same for all. That is the global endpoint. However, they have written here the below endpoint while using the web API to force a request to be handled by specific geography. See here, right? So let's see here. So this is the global one, which is the recommended one, api.cognitive.microsofttranslator.com. So the request processing data center is closest available data center, right? If it is not closest, then it could also move to a different geography, like it can move from America to Asia Pacific. So in global, it is not ensured that your uh, requesting processing data center is always in the same geography. It can be in a different geography. But if there is a residency requirements, then what you can do is you can have these kind of service endpoints. So this is API and NAM. So NAM stands for North America, right? API NAM cognitive.microsofttranslator.com. So when you will use this endpoint, then the request will only go to data centers in the North America, like East US 2 and West US 2. And then for Asia Pacific also there is APC. Then the request will only go to Japan East or Southeast Asia, right? In those regions only. So that is the region specific service endpoint. But Microsoft recommends to use API cognitive.microsofttranslator.com, which is a global endpoint, right? And it doesn't have your resource name. So if this doesn't have your resource name and all the API endpoints are same, then why are we specifying the credential here? We do not need to specify endpoint because endpoint is same, but we specify region. So why do we want to specify the region, and why Azure requires us to specify the region? So the logic behind that is by the region, Azure knows from which region the request is coming and what is the quota of what is the subscription associated with this region for your account, right? All those things Azure knows, so that's why this region is really important to specify here. So that is the whole thing. So we have specified the region, we have specified the translator key. We will save it, Control S and Control Q. So yes, our file has been saved, environment variables have been updated. So now let's see what's the next thing. We go to keys and endpoint, we save the region and key, right? So yeah, region is really important because it helps us to track the like Azure tracks your quota, and Azure also knows from which region your request is coming, right? Because we do not have the endpoint now, resource specific endpoint, which can tell that. So now what we have to do, we have to go to translate.py and we have to import these two libraries, like uh, ai.translation.text and ai.translation.text.models. And from ai.translation.text.models, we have to import input text item, right? So let's go here. Let's import this thing here and code translator, I think. Yeah, translate.py. So this is the code and let's write some namespaces here. So from azure.ai dot translator, right? Translate or translator. Let's see, translation, translator, translate. So translation, right? So translation. So it's not translator and it's not translate. Translate is a verb, translator is a something else, but translation is the thing here. Azure.ai.translation and then dot text because we are translating text, right? So from there we have to import star everything, and from azure.ai.translation.text.models we are importing one the models. By models I mean the data structure, right? Not the machine learning models. So we are importing input text item. So I input text item. So this is the input text item. Let's save this. And now let's move to the next step. We have to create a client. So we have translation text, right? So what kind of client name will be there? So this is translation region and translation key. So there will be a translate text key, or what would be the text translation client. So the client name is text translation client. So text translation client. So let's see this. They are focusing a lot on the word translation, right? So here also there is translation.txt, and then here also there is text translation. So this is translation.txt. So it is text translation. In previous also, when we were importing text analytics, then also it was text analytics client. Here also it was like translation.text. So here it is text translation client. So here we will specify our uh, credential, right? So in credentials we will specify the credential with Azure key credential, and in this we will specify our key, translator key, and besides that we will specify the region. So in region we will specify translator region, right? So let's see, is that correct? Region. So let's see here. So in the region we can see there is a region, and we are getting our client from here, right? So we got our client, text translation client, credentials, and the region. And now let's see what we are doing the next step. So the next step is find the command choose target language and following code, which uses the text translator service to return list of supported language for translations and prompts the user to select language code for the target language. So what this code will be doing, what this code will be doing, it will return list of supported languages for translation. So which languages are supported for translation, and will also prompt the user to select the language code for the target language, right? So let's see this. Okay, so I have modified my code. So first of all, I want to tell you that I am using this utility function save JSON, which I have created on my own, right? So this save JSON function is basically saving our JSON to like our the Python output to this JSON results.json file by default. Otherwise, we can specify also like result2.json, result3.json. So first of all, what we are doing, we are creating our client, right? Text translation client. We are passing our credential with Azure key credential, and then region, which is translator region. The next thing that we have to do is uh, we have to choose a target language, right? Using text translation service to return list of supported languages for translation. So let's understand how we will do that, right? So we will call this method get supported language, and in that method we will pass in that what is the scope of it. So in get supported language we pass the scope. So by scope we means what kind of operations, right? So whether it could be translation, it could be transliteration, right? So let's see in brief like what kind of uh, things are available. So if we go to this translate language support, you could see there are different operations. So there is operations for translation containers, translation cloud. So cloud translation is available in all languages for the translate operation, right? And then there is custom translator, auto language detection, dictionary. So all of these are operations for it. And here you can see that this is the language and this is the language code. And you can see this language code is ported in text translation and document translation in cloud. So we have the support of all of these, you know, you can see, yeah, all of these languages mentioned have the support in this kind of operation. However, if we take a look at containers text translation, we could see for containers text translation, it's not available for Klingon, right? And Klingon one, right? So it is not available for that. It is not available for Lower Sorubian. So that is also a language. I mean, I didn't know about that. Um, so this is the language for the containers. Then there is custom translator. So in this also like Albania, Amharic, these kind of languages are not available in custom translator. Auto language detection. So Bhojpuri, Bodo, right, and Chhattisgarhi, these are not available in auto language detection. And then dictionary, then we can have LLM translations. So Arabic is there, but there is no Amharic, right? Then those are the different kind of operations we have, and the language is supported for that. Then there is document translation for scanned PDF support, right? So supported as source language for scanned PDF, supported as target language for scanned PDF, right? So this could be the target language, this could be the source language. So like for example, Amharic, it is supported as a source language for scanned PDF, but not as a target language, right? So that is also one thing. So based on the operations, we have different language supports. And for transliteration, so what is transliteration? So let's see what is transliteration. So for that, we need to understand what is script. So script in spoken language is basically written system of symbols or character used to represent the sounds, syllables, or words of that language, right? So whatever we spoke, right? Like there is like a text message kind of thing. So like if you know there is some word like हम ये कर रहे हैं. So this is like a uh, this is a language. This is a different language, right? And but it has the same, like the text is this. So let me clarify. So this is the written system of symbols or characters used to represent the sound. So it is a written system of symbols that represent sounds. A language is primarily method of spoken communication, while its script is the visual representation of the communication, right? So it's basically the visual representation. Like if you speak something in a different language, right? If you speak something in Russian, then if you want to represent that Russian into like the English letters, right? Then those can be represented in that way, right? So here we can see an example, right? So in Japanese, if you want to say Tokyo, then we will write this thing, right? But this thing means Tokyo, right? If you want to say Namaste, so Namaste is basically an English. So in English we say hello, and in Hindi we say Namaste, right? So we have this how we represent it in the Hindi language. But if you want its English equivalent, so then this will be Namaste, right? Similarly for Muhammad, so this is like here, this is the actual text, right, of Arabic. This is the actual Arabic text, and this is its English equivalent. So like if you want to text message someone, then we might not just use that actual text, right? So we might use it in English, right? So this is for Hebrew also. So Hebrew to Latin, right? So this is the Hebrew language, but we want it in Latin transcript. So here we write it in the Latin transcript, right? So I hope you are understanding like what it means. Like even for the Chinese language, this is a Chinese language. Exactly, not the Chinese. This is Japanese. Sorry about that. So this is Japanese, like actual Japanese text, right? If you want it to have a equivalent Latin transcript, right? So by Latin we means like English is in Latin, right? So for Latin it will be like Tokyo. So that is the thing here. So that is what it means by transliteration. It is written system of symbols or characters used to represent the sounds. So those sounds were represented in that English text. So English text is basically Latin script, right? So that English language, right? How we write it is that is Latin script. So how we write those languages, it's basically script, right? So if you want our language, right, to change into a different script, then we use transliteration, right? Then other is uh, let's see here. So for transliteration, Another things we have are sentence boundaries. So that is basically to, so this is transliteration. Other things what we have here, so custom translator, auto language detection. So we have dictionary also. So dictionary lookup is basically that we have a word, and we that word can have different meanings. So like if the word is bank, then bank can be mean by a financial bank, or it could mean river bank. Then that word bank will be translated to different words. Like here you can see, so this is run. Run is an English word which could mean move fast, which could mean operate, right? And which could even mean manage. So like I run every morning, so that is move fast, right? The machine runs smoothly, so that is machine operates smoothly. She runs the company, so that means she manages the company. So for each run, there is a different meaning, right? Like the word is same, but the meaning is different, right? So for that, if you want translation of run in another language, then it would also have different translations for the same word. So like in this case, I don't know what this language is, but I think this is French. Okay. So I don't know how to pronounce this, but yeah, this is the French one. This is also the French equivalent, and this is the French equivalent of this meaning of the word, right? So it's not the same in the French. So we are not using the same word for run every time in the French. So that is something. So this is basically that task of dictionary lookup, right? And here also we have dictionary examples also. So dictionary example means these examples, right? So that is also there. So if we see here in dictionary lookup, right, here we have dictionary lookup and from to everything, request body, response body. So in response body we have the translations and a lot of things are here, right? So we will come to this afterwards. As we can see, here is the word fly. So we are converting from English to some another language. Yeah, to Spanish, right? So there is an English term fly, and we are translating it to Spanish word. So this is basically uh, the response body of this dictionary lookup. So we are doing dictionary lookup from English to Spanish. And here you can also see all the things here. But let's see here. So in the translations, we have the the word is on fly, and if we normalize it, then also it is fly, right? So by normalizing means if it was flying, then also the normalized source will fly, right? So the fly, we have the word here, and in Spanish we could translate to volar, right? But part of speech is verb. So fly can be used as verb also. So by verb we mean let's fly, or let's fly like birds, right? And let's kill flies, right? And the fly also means the flies that come in our house and somewhere else, right, near the garbage. Or flies can also mean that you are going to fly to the Delhi, or you're going to fly to America, USA, right? So it is also a verb, or it is a noun, right? So in case it is a verb, then the fly could mean volar. In case it is a noun, then fly will mean mosca in Spanish, right? And this is the confidence value of it, that how confident it is in making this prediction. And then there are back translations. So back translations mean that this volar, what could this mean? Like this volar in Spanish, what are the different meanings of it in English? So volar could also mean fly, it could mean flying, it could mean blow, it could also mean flight. And mosca could mean fly, flyweight, and flies, right? In case it is a noun. So the mosca would mean all those things, right? So back translation is basically we were translating from English to that Spanish word, but then we are back translating that Spanish word to the possible English words, right? So, and then there is num examples. So there are 15 and frequency count. This is 4637. So let's see what this num example and frequency count is. An integer representing the number of examples that are available for this translation pair, right? So this is the actual examples you can look to understand, right? frequency count and integer representing the frequency of this translation pair in the data. So in data, what is the frequency of this translation pair? So this can also give you, you know, an insight of how many of these pairs are in the training data. So that is basically frequency count and num examples. So this is basically used for a different task, which is a dictionary lookup task. So now we know dictionary lookup task. We know there is a transliteration task. We also know that there is a, you know, auto language detection task. So all of these are different tasks. So that is why the supported languages for different tasks is also different. So that is why we are here representing the scope. So in scope, we are saying for our translation task. We can also specify multiple of them, but here we are saying for the scope of translation, what are the supported languages? And then that will be saved in our results.json file. So that result is saved in the results.json file. So let's open code results.json, and whatever the output of this get supported languages is, that is saved in JSON. Let's see what is that output. So this is the output, right? So here you can see there is translation, right? So there is translation here, and in that translation we have different keys like AF, AR, right? And there is BE, BN, CA. So these are all different keys. Each key is mapped again to a dictionary which has name, and its name is basically Africans, right? So this is basically, I don't know how I'm pronouncing these things, but this is the name for AF, Africans. For AR, it's Arabic, right? And the native name is basically the name in which that language is, you know, the native characters that will be used to spell this word Arabic, right? So name and native name. So name is also Afrikaans and native name is also Afrikaans. So that means these have both the same script, right? And the dir is basically direction. So whether this language is written in from left to right or right to left. So this is written from left to right. Then now there will be some languages which are written from right to left. So let's minimize this. Okay, yeah. So let's see here. If we search for right to left, then you can see there are like 11 languages. So one of the languages is Persian, another is Arabic, another is this one, which is this is Dogri, I think Dogri, yeah. And then this language which is Hebrew. So all of these are written from right to left, not left to right, right? Then Kurdish is also written from right to left, and Kashmiri is also written from right to left. So all these languages, it's telling the direction. So we have a key in our translation key. We have different keys which represent the code name of the language, and then in that we have the exact name of the language, the native name of the language, and the direction. So that is why if you will see the code here, you can see in this code language supported. Whenever we get the language response, so from that language response, we are getting the dot translation length, and from this length, we are basically getting how many languages are supported. And besides that, there is basically target language and supported language. So how we are getting whether our language is supported or not? So from the language response, we are going to dot translation, and then we are checking the keys. So all of those keys which we see here, right? Which we see here. Let's go to this one more time. So this translation key has a big dictionary in which there are a lot of keys like AF, AM, right? So all of those keys, we are iterating over it. And if one of them is equal to our target language, then we say that this is a supported language. So if there is any key which is equal to our target language, then that language is basically supported language. So this is how we are trying this one. Then afterwards, what we are doing, we are basically translating. So in translating, what we will do, we will take an input text item. So this is a kind of object. So we can see that also if we go to code results, right? Code result 2.json. Then this is how the text input looks like the input text item, sorry, the input text item. If you want to know its structure, so it has uh, this text attribute, so it only have this dictionary, list of dictionary, which is just a text attribute. So it is just a text attribute, so that is the whole thing, right? And yeah, control q. Then we can also look at the result3.json. So this input text item, we are basically putting it to in our body of translate. So when we are calling client on translate, so now we are doing the process of translation, in which we will put the input item, right? Input text item, and the languages, two languages, like in what languages we want to translate. So we could specify multiple languages here in the two language attribute, right? This gives us a translation response, and now we are going to look at how the translation response looks. So this is how the translation response looks. So it has two keys. First is a detected language. So this basically tells you the language, the source language. So what is the source language? Sometimes you do not know what is the language of source, so then it will detect it for you. Then there is translations. So in this translations we have a text, right? So this is the text, and now this is telling to. So to is basically to which language. So in this case it is HI, so it is Hindi. So to is basically Hindi, and this is the actual text in Hindi. So if I try to paste this here, right? If I try to paste this, because this is right now not properly formatted. So if I paste this here, uh, let's see, I have to paste it the all, right? Let's paste this whole string. Okay, the language, right? Converting Unicode. So it's basically telling that uh, it is translated to this thing, because it is Unicode. So that's why we are just seeing the Unicode code points, but in actual it will be shown like this. So it has translated this language to this, right? So that is what is here. There is like text, which represent the actual translated text, and 2 represents the language in which it is translating, and this all is in the translations, in the translation attribute, and this is a list, right? Because there can be multiple translations. One is to Hindi, one is to Spanish, one is to French, right? So there can be multiple translations. So that is why it is a list of dictionaries, and each dictionary has text and to attribute. And this detected language is also a dictionary, and it has one attribute as language and another is a score. So score basically tells that how sure it is that the language detected is correct, right? So yeah, that is what we are doing here also. We are getting the translation response, our translation response. So this is a list, right? You can see here, this is a list, but we only gave it one document, that's why just give us one only, but this is a list, so that's why we are extracting it. Translation response is 0, and then what we are doing, we are getting the detected language, so this will be our source language. Then from translations we are getting the translated text. So for translated text we get translated text dot to, so that is basically in which language it is converting, and translated text dot text, so that is the actual translated text, right? So now let's try to you know paste this code here in our code, so in our file, so code.translate.py. So yeah, here we have just used this. Now we will basically complete our code. So now let's understand this code. So First of all, we are getting the supported languages. We are specifying the scope as translation, and we are getting that in our language response. Then language response dot translation. So from that translation key, we are basically getting the length of our dictionary, right? How many items are in our dictionary. So because this translation key is basically a dictionary of lot of keys, all of those keys are basically language codes, right? So that is why from length we are basically telling how many languages are supported. Then this is the basically nothing, this is just for reference. Then this is the target language code for translation. So we are prompting the user to like enter the target language. Initially we are setting it to XX, then supported language is false. So while supported language is false, we are asking the user to input the code of the target language. So when input basically when the user inputs the target language code, then it is being checked with the language response translation dot keys. So all the keys in that in that translation, we are basically checking it one by one. If there is a match, then we say supported language is equal to true. Otherwise, it will false and it will go back and ask for another input from the user, right? Then this is translate text. So in this input text is just empty right now. So if the input text is basically quit, then we will quit. Otherwise, we will ask the user to enter the text to translate. And here we are specifying this input text item. So in input text item, we are basically specifying our text. So it is just a simple thing in which there is this text attribute, right? So we will pass this input text elements as a body. So in client.translate function, we are passing uh, the body parameter. In body parameter, we are passing the actual like actual text to translate, and to language is a list of languages we want to translate to, right? So that is basically target language. We are only taking one language, that is the target language, right? So afterwards we are just getting the response. So because this would be a list, the response would be a list, so that's why we are just extracting the first element of it. Then we are trying to use that translation to get the detected language. This will be our source language. And then from the translations attribute, we are trying to get the uh, translated text. So this also has attributes to. So to is basically to which language you are going to translate, and text is basically the actual text of the language. And in the source language also we have this attribute of language, so which tells you the what is the source language. So this is all the code. It's very simple code, right? Let's try to run this code. And right, so first of all, okay, let's enter. So it says 137 languages are supported, and it says enter the language code for translation. So let's say if we enter a language code for translation like something XX, which is not there, right? We know there is no language code XX. So if we enter this, it says XX is not a supported language, because we know there is no language XX. So also there are some languages, real languages, which are not supported, right? And afterwards there are like, let's say HI. So HI is for Hindi. So if we say this, so this is supported, so it asks us to enter a text. So let's enter some text, right? mm, mm, so I entered this text, so now it will translate it. So it says this text, if you're hungry and tired, go to sleep, is translated to this, is translated from en to hi. So these are the language code as this. So this is a translate text, right? Then we could also try to do spelling mistakes. So let's try to do some spelling mistakes. So you tried jack of hill. Let's try. So Yeah, this is something that it translates to. So it's translating word by word, what I can see here, right? And also it has taken the U very good, right? So it also handles the spelling mistakes. Yeah. So quit. Okay, exit. So now we will exit. Okay, we have to type quit only. Okay, quit. Yeah. So yeah, that is the thing. So this is the whole lab. So we learn a lot in this lab about translation. The basic methods we learn were dot translate to translate the text, in which we are putting the input text element and the list of languages to language, and then language or translation dot keys, which we are getting from get supported languages, in which we are also specifying the scope. Yeah. So yeah, thanks.